can bring the lights down lower. Okay?
I don't care, whatever you want to do.
Okay. Well, sometimes people read their notes and things
Well,
dark.
I think they're recording too, so that helps.
Yeah.
Keep the lights on. No, it's fine.
Okay.
The slides are real strong. Oop. And there's a pointer.
Yep, there's a pointer. Okay, let's move.
I don't want it to move. I don't want it to move. Move it back. Thank you. Okay. That was my surprise slide.
Tell me to look at it.
So I'm looking for the.
Very small. Point it more towards the screen. Now turn it on.
Oh, yeah, put it on. Yeah. This is big enough. I have a bigger one. My big fingers. But I was in.
And I don't think the people on Zoom see the pointer.
Kind of got frustrated after blowing you. Tried it, and it's always go back, forth, but never do a put it down. Let me change my slides for you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please get ready to be entertained by Dr. Leppla. We have our also our audience on Zoom. So Norm Leppla is a professor of entomology in the entomology and nematology department at UF. During his 50-year career, Dr. Leppla has served as a research entomologist and research leader with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and he was the chief of the methods development and associate director of the National Biological Control Institute with USDA. He's now the director of the UF IFAS Research and Education Centers at Leesburg, Apopka, and Stanford. You were, okay. No, so it's enough to be a professor here. So Dr. Leppla established the statewide integrated pest management program for UF in 2001 and serves as the director of that. In his book, The Foundation of Quality Control for Insect Rearing, we want to rear insects now, remember that. I mean, some people probably rear cockroaches. Anyway, in his book, Dr. Leppla discusses the approaches to and need for the mass production of insects in agricultural pest control, aesthetics, and biological products. That's a euphemistic term, I think, biological products. He is a fellow and honorary member of the Entomological Society of America. He earned his BS and MS degrees in zoology from Arizona State and received his Ph.D. degree in entomology from the University of Arizona. And I'm not going to tell you what year. So, Dr. Leppla. Oh, also, please mute or turn off your cell phones.
Is this on? Yep. Good. Well, I hope you came to learn and to enjoy, because we're taking this little journey together. Rearing insects, or mass rearing insects, as you heard with that great introduction, Phyllis, I appreciate it. I'm not a malcontent. I just like adventure, and so I keep changing jobs. And the fact is that rearing insects fits in a lot of places. One of those places of interest recently is mass production for food and feed. And I have been interested in that, but I don't really do research in that area. I recently went to a meeting or a workshop on the subject in Phoenix, Arizona, at the Entomological Society. And so I'm up to date and I am interested, but I'm taking this journey with you today because I don't know all the nuances and the details of what's going on in this field, but it is fascinating and I hope you enjoy it. And we'll start off with lunch. How many of you have eaten insects on purpose? Oh, you put your hands down, not on purpose. Okay, on purpose. All right, very good. So maybe ants, maybe crickets are great. Yes, and maybe over here, crickets, ants, that's pretty common, okay. Or even grasshoppers. We try to avoid roaches, but you did a what? A chocolate-covered grasshopper is one of the specialties. Almost every happy hour, those should be served. But actually, if you're interested, there we go. Okay, yeah, that's better. I can hear it echoing. You might want to put this order in if you're really interested. You can have that as your lunch tomorrow. Seriously, I don't think you're ready, but those are grasshoppers. So let's get started. What do we want to cover in a little less than an hour? We want to talk about why eat insects. Why would you want to do that on purpose? Why mass produce insects for food and feed? Why or what insects? What insects are the primary ones that we grow for this purpose? And what is the future? And if you're thinking about investing, you might want to pay close attention because this is a very new field and they're always looking for money. Who isn't? Okay, why eat insects? Well, this young man in New Zealand, he's enjoying them. They taste good, I'm told. I've eaten a few by accident. They're nutritious, they're resource efficient, and they convert waste to food. If you look at this little chart over on the right, you can see a comparison between insects and cows. Isn't that amazing? With land, the cows take 95 or more of land than insects. 26 times the water, almost 9 times the feed, and cows put about 8 times more CO2. Well, I just think that's an understatement. But anyway, insects don't put out that much CO2, but cows do, and a lot of methane too, as you probably have been reading. So how does this work? There's kind of a new concept. It's this word, circularity, and it's diagrammed over on the right, but I have a definition here. Circularity refers to the practices that optimize resource use and minimize waste across the entire production and consumption cycle. It's a cycle. So it emphasizes sustainability and economic efficiency. That is the official definition of circularity. But the diagram shows you what happens. And I've got a little pointer here. See it? There we go. You start off with an insect and a bunch of eggs, maybe 200-300 eggs, and you come down here and you put these larvae on this waste material and you get frass. You might think of that as poop, and it's very good fertilizer, inexpensive, and you get all these insects that you can use for extraction or as the insects themselves. Well, let's see what's going on in the world in terms of food and feed. These fish are at the dock every day in China. And a lot of them come from the Pacific Ocean on the western shore of South America. You probably heard and read about all of the fishing and all of the reduction in vertebrates and the whole food chain being disrupted by removing that layer of fish. And this biodiversity issue is very, very real. And it's here in this use of fish for feed. Fish meal has been a primary source of feed, as you probably know, for decades. So there it is. Most of this goes to China, about 85%. And the best place to get it is Peru. So you got global fishing, and you got all this fish meal And you got a lot of hungry dolphins and whales and so forth, and birds. So what do you do about it? You grow the fish in a farm. This is in South Florida, and it's a company called Atlantic Sapphire. The head company is in Denmark. Back to the global issue. So Denmark company moved over here and built this in Homestead. And what are they feeding? They started out with fish meal, and they're transitioning into using insects and insect products to produce your salmon. So more than half, I read, and again, I'm on this journey with you. I had to read all these things. More than half of the seafood we eat is farmed. I didn't know that. That's amazing. Well, there they are in South Florida, our state. Well, what insects are primarily used for mass production of food and feed? We talked about it, and some of you have already mentioned the main ones, but here they are. You've got 28, over here, 28% are black soldier flies, 14 mealworms, and you probably have purchased mealworms for your birds or your lizards. Yep, a lot of people do. I was left with a bird to take care of, a small young bird to take care of by a neighbor, and they gave me a little bag of mealworms, and they ran out in about 10 minutes. And I went to the pet store, found out what mealworms cost for little birds. So that's the mealworms. Then you've got the crickets we talked about, and the locusts, and then various other things. So those top three, let me describe what they are. And the first one I'll describe is the black soldier fly. Oops, boy, that thing took off, didn't it? That's a fast one. I mentioned I have bigger fingers than this device. Okay, I'll try again to get right on it. There we go. The black soldier fly, Hermetia illucens, is right here. That's the fly. It's a typical fly in terms of its life cycle, and it produces. Now, you might want to call these larvae, you might want to call them food. Some people call them maggots. I don't think they would sell very well as maggots. And they are flies. And then you have the yellow mealworm. We also have a lesser mealworm. And those are beetles. If you didn't know it, mealworms are beetles. And then you have the crickets. And Akita is an interesting one. My son-in-law is a bodybuilder, and he's been buying this expensive protein. And the label says one of the major ingredients is Akita. So he asked me, well, what is this Akita substance? And I, being an entomologist, I didn't think anything of it. I said, it's a cricket. And he was not very happy about that, discovering that. Okay, here's the black soldier fly. I want to get a little bit of entomology in here since that's my field. So here it is, a couple 300 eggs. You get these instars. They go on the diet, and then you get a growth. You get these great big fifth instars, then pupae, and then adults. So you have 4 stages: egg, larva, pupa, and adult. Okay, that's the black soldier fly, Hermetia illucens, the primary one that's grown. I was lecturing in a course. We have developed some global courses, and this one's in a wonderful place. It's Stellenbosch University near Cape Town. And the owner and operator and engineer of this company came over and wanted to get some ideas because he did not have an entomologist on his staff. And so we got to learn about what he was doing. And this is agriprotein. This gets back to this wallet that you may or may not have that's thick. They were trying to prove the concept so they could market a franchise of this type in Europe. And that's what they did. So it was a proof of concept deal. And venture capital is what they were after. Oops. Okay, this is what was going in the landfill. This is just a bunch of waste. Bring it up, put it on the grounds so you can see the building. A lot of people were interested in this because of that fish problem. So you can see World Wildlife, the Gates Foundation, and so forth. So a lot of people are interested in protecting those fish and moving into insects for feed. Well, here's what you do. You build a factory and you make this diet finally into a slurry and you pump it into vats. And the insects are in vats or trays on shelves. And that's pretty standard in all these facilities. They're all proprietary. They won't let you in. So I still know they don't do it in some exotic way. It's like this. These are the adult colonies. So those are the flies laying eggs on some kind of a substrate, and then they're collected and start that cycle on the diet. Well, you get these black soldier flies right here out of these vats. A lot of robotics are being used nowadays and machinery. You collect it all and you purify it into protein and sell it to my son-in-law and call it Akita. In this case, you call it BSF, which he also wouldn't know, black soldier fly. Well, what's going on in the world? This is within 5 years. Everything I'll show you is within the last 5 years. Maybe there'll be an exception, but not much. So InnovaFeed is in France, Nestle France. They got the bright idea to build another plant in Decatur, Illinois. Why would they do that? What's so special about Decatur, Illinois? A lot of corn, and when they harvest the corn, what's left? A lot of corn stalks, and that can be used to feed the insects. So they moved over to take advantage of what's basically left over after a crop is harvested. And we got a lot of it in the US. So here's one in Vietnam, same thing. Look at the numbers, 10,000 tons a year of black soldier flies. I've been in the mass rearing my whole career, and we don't deal with buckets. We deal with train cars and big 16, 18-wheel trucks. This is a lot of material. And that's all going into the products that they produce. So that's in Vietnam, and that one is, I think, within a couple of years old. Here's one in 2020 in Malaysia, 16,000 tons a year. Here's one in Kentucky, back to the products left after we harvest our agricultural products. So all that waste material is going in here, being boosted into this diet. The diet's fed to black soldier fly, and then you get the black soldier flies and you extract what you want from them. This research and development, I'll talk about some more. I'm not doing this kind of research and development, others are that are mine. And they have not only put a plant into Kentucky, but they put a research and development program into next to Research Triangle Park in North Carolina. So they're in it, they're invested in it for good. What do they do? This is pretty interesting. EnviroFlight in Kentucky partnered with Darling. Darling is over 100-year established company that, and they're not the only ones who have taken renderings. Some renderings seem to be more and more valuable. So these organizations or plants where they to take cattle and horses and stuff, chickens, that stuff's been really valuable. So enough of it. So now they're going after what else can we use to produce products, and the products that they're produced in with Darling's collaboration and EnviroFlight include the black soldier fly, the pupae, the larvae, the eggs. And why would eggs be a product? I've gotten into this in Brazil. I got into this, as a matter of fact. Why would you have a factory that produces insect eggs? Well, it's because they can sell the eggs to other people who grow black soldier flies. And so the eggs that I saw being packaged and in pallets in Brazil were being airshipped to the Netherlands to grow insects. They even have diversification now. It's that big of an industry. And look at this. You've got the black soldier fly, you've got various kinds of oil. Over here is probably frass that I mentioned before. This is most likely chitin. And I don't show protein here, but I do show puppies. No doubt they just love it. You just got to have it. And that's the marketing side. Isn't this amazing stuff? I really enjoyed doing the research for this talk. Well, we're going to move on to your favorite mealworm so that you'll know what to do with your lizard. Anyway, your reptile, because a lot of this goes to reptiles and birds. And this is a beetle. Beetles take longer to grow. They also have complete metamorphosis, an egg, larva, pupa, and adult. But they just take longer than a fly. Flies are pretty fast, as you know, if you've got trash around. And here they are with the same cycle and the same result of a big larva. Only here it's only 3 instars. Who's doing this? Yellow mealworm, the biggest one in the world, is in France. I'm kind of getting redundant here, but why would they go and put in a plant in Nebraska? Well, you got it. Back to those agricultural, yeah, I guess I'll call it waste. Anyway, leftovers. If anybody speaks French, maybe there's some reason why insect is spelled with a Y. I don't know why they did that. It's catchy. Anyway, so insect in France, and then you have this lesser buffalo worm, Aphidopius, and they're smaller. And the thing about them that's kind of weird, they don't look like a buffalo. So I'm curious. I spent a whole afternoon trying to find out why they call them buffalo. And I never got a good answer. I got some answers. But I showed you the life cycle. They don't look like a buffalo to me. That's what they're called. Does somebody know? No? Okay. Well, here you go. I did this just for you. You can go down to Lowe's and you can get a bag of them for $45 plus tax. Yeah, is that a good price? Okay. Well, this is what I mean by the global nature of this. It's everywhere. And I'll show you some more products. Now, if you didn't know that was insects, would you eat that hamburger? Yeah, probably I would. Heck yeah. No, this stuff really, it doesn't look like picking up a bug and eating it. They do a lot of work with their food science people and so forth. There's a lot of research goes into these products. This is an interesting one from Prodi Farm, which is a collaboration with Insect in France. Divax is a new one, 2025. So they basically, this probably is not built, in my view. It's probably a rendering of a factory they're going to build. But they say it's built, and it's going to have a capacity of 15,000 metric tons in Lithuania. Maybe they have waste agricultural products in Lithuania, or who knows why, but that's why they're there. Okay, and this is what they produce. Again, I mean, I can see myself eating those nachos. With enough hot sauce, you can eat anything. Okay, let's see. Let's go to the house cricket. And let me check my time. Too good, too fast. Okay, I've got to give you some more entomology. So this is a cricket. Now, this is incomplete metamorphosis. You don't have 4 stages, egg, larva, pupa, adult. You only have eggs and nymphs. And if you'll notice, little grasshoppers get to be big grasshoppers. They don't get to be pupae. They do grow wings in the last stage and become adults. So you have an adult and you get some eggs, and in a couple of weeks, you get nymphs, and then they start growing on the diet. And I'll show you who's doing that. And again, this is Akita. And Aspire is the biggest in the world, they say. They're in Canada. And their facility has been online for a while. And I've forgotten how many tons, but they're up in that thousands of tons a year. But you don't have to be big. You can be custom. I really like this outfit in Finland. They've been doing this for, I don't know, 10 years anyway. And so you have a nice little picnic with your insects. You see barbecue and so forth. You make your tacos, but this is great. You go to happy hour, and they go out and get some nice crickets for you to munch on while you're having your beer. Or look at this, delivery to your home. Yeah, you can call up and get some of these crickets to go with your pizza. No problem. There's the guy growing them. It's kind of a cottage industry in Finland and other places, so it doesn't have to be huge, but the huge ones are just amazing. Well, who could resist cricket candy, cricket nuts? And look at the packet. You're talking Christmas gifts here. These are wonderful. That's EntoCube. I'll tell you, marketing is a lot of it. So where is it headed? Where is all this headed? The basic science of all this is real. This is Elsevier. There's AP. Who else? MDPI, one of the biggest publishers in the world. All started new journals, all getting articles and research. You're probably thinking these are insects, and insects are defined as filth in food by our FDA. A lot of their work is on pathology, on determining that these products are safe. Insects have pathogens, insects have diseases. So a lot of the research is to handle the regulatory requirements to make sure that the food is safe for pets and for you. And I can tell you, it's as strict as it is. I didn't realize things like dog food went through such a rigorous regulatory approval, but they do, and so do these products. That's part of it. Part of it is production, like what I'm interested in, but all through the line, even marketing, distribution, novel insects. I'm seeing articles on, let's see, we can probably take this particular insect, see how it does. All of these things are the future. They're all these publications. And to do that takes scientists. So where are they? Where are they? I guarantee you, they are not at the University of Florida. Because that would be me, and they're not. So I did work on the program in Belgium. They have a little different system of science and government there. But anyway, they were getting money from the Belgian government, and somebody had to review their plan, make sure that they got return on investment they expected. And that was an outstanding group, put together a team there. Netherlands, they were the pioneers with Wageningen. Wageningen's right here. And they had the first workshop, and I think they have a workshop every year or so in the Netherlands. Texas A&M has a scientist who does this, not full-time. There's another one at the University of Arizona that I work with, and he's working, he publishes on shelf life. Never thought much about it, but he has to dry these products and he has to put them in a format and package them and so forth so that they don't deteriorate in storage on the shelf. All these little things you have to do. INRA is the French USDA. They're certainly involved in this with insect, the Y insect, their big production in France. Stellenbosch, where I was, they have a program, and we're still teaching that course every about 3 years. Thank goodness we now do it by Zoom. If any of you have flown to South Africa, you know that's not a fun trip, living on an airplane for 22 hours or something. And so we do it by Zoom now, and it's all over South Africa. It's really nice. And then this is one that's amazing. These companies got together. You remember I mentioned Aspire, and I mentioned EnviroFlight and NovaFeed and Insect. They all got together, and in North America, they created NACIA, the North American Coalition for Insect Agriculture. They have 200 members in 12 countries, and that's the group that I went to see in Phoenix at a workshop. And I thought they would be more organized than they are. They're still struggling somewhat to build a commodity type group like we have with citrus here, for example. But they're going that direction. Here's the future. Valentine's Day is coming right up. Better hurry. And I'm not ready for a scorpion tequila licks. That just doesn't work for me. It's got to be processed before I'm ready. But anyway, those have been around for a while, but they're new products, new packaging, new ideas, new marketing. And this one I've worked on a little bit in South Africa, and it's a whole nother deal. It's Saturnite. It's the biggest moth group there is. And these mopane worms live on a mopane tree, bush, it's a big bush. And they are really popular. They're big and juicy. And so when they come into the season with mopane worm on the trees, they're harvested off the trees and they go whoosh. I mean, they're just gone in no time. They can't produce enough. And they also damage the trees when they do the harvesting. So we're trying to figure out how to grow them on an artificial diet so that they can be available year-round and not damage the environment with harvesting. And we have the same thing in all over the world and in the US as well, where people harvest insects and inadvertently do damage to the environment just through the movements in and out of the forest. So we try to grow insects that keep people from harvesting them in nature. So that's the mopane worm. This is another example of the future. We have lots. These weevil larvae. I mean, they're really popular in Asia, but you see they're grown in a way that's very primitive. It's kind of your mom and pop deal, as we call it. That's the kind of thing that can be industrialized in a hurry. That's the sort of thing we can pick up, something that's been around, it's accepted in the marketplace. People want more, you can't satisfy the market. Build a factory, create what you need, and move this into a major product. Okay, well, here's some more. I just threw this up here. It's right out of a journal, but you can see, it looks like grasshoppers, and over here you can see maybe crickets again. These might be mealworms, who knows? And this one I love. You know, those of us who are entomologists and have kids, our kids kind of listen to us and pick up on what we're doing. That insect is a giant water bug. Does anybody know? Have you seen the giant water bug? Come to lights. They'll bite the heck out of you. They're aquatic. They're big. My daughter, when she was a little thing, one of the first words she learned was bellostomatid. That's a genus. No, that's a family. Bellostomatidae. Anyway, there they are, and they're very interesting. And then more of the same sort of thing all the way down through here. Big old juicy grubs. And that's the future, pulling that stuff into some sort of just mass production that's efficient and cost effective, and then produce a product. That's where we're headed, and it's really picking up. It's about 150 million a year right now in revenue, and it's going by 2027. They figure it'll be about 1.2 billion. It's growing about 25% a year. This is really interesting stuff. But the last thing I think for the future is to get something that you can take with you anywhere you go. And in this case, why not? Take the insects into space. They grow fast, they're crunchy, and our astronauts can eat them. That's what I have to share with you, along with some questions and answers. Thank you. By the way, it doesn't have to be questions and answers. It can be your experiences, because those are really interesting sometimes.
Have you marketed that idea to Elon Musk? Taking insects to Mars.
Actually, it's not a novel idea, but it hasn't been mainstream. There was a science group at University of Central Florida who came up with that, and they got a little bit of money from NASA to do some kind of a study. And so I got the idea from them, and then I created the slide.
Thank you for the nice talk. From a nutritional standpoint,
Yeah.
human nutritional standpoint, do insect proteins have all the amino acids, essential amino acids? And does that vary from one species of insect to the next?
Very good question. And I pointed out the research that's being done. The nutritional research is amazing, and they do have different amino acids, and they have different quantities. And the same thing is true of the other products, the oils, the chitin, and so forth. And in testing some of these, it's interesting. You get different reactions in different animals. They do all that testing. But one that I thought made sense is chitin. Chitin can be really useful. It's basically a polysaccharide, but it's sharp. You know, insect, you feel them, they're not soft, these adults. And so they have to be very careful when they blend these things that they don't get too much of one, like protein. And they're not just giving them protein, they're giving them a bunch of different ingredients and testing them out on different substrates. And all of that has to be carefully done to get the balanced amino acids, but also to make sure you don't have something that it disrupts their digestive system. And chitin can do that.
Just a few days ago or a couple of weeks ago, I happened to see something on TV about mealworms that ate plastic, and they're developing it in Africa as a means of contrling or getting rid of plastic. Did you come across something like that?
I tell my students this, I tell them, and I tell them. This is my answer. I have no idea.
This is very recent. I mean, I just saw it on TV as an interesting piece of news.
I would be skeptical because that's not anywhere near their normal diet. So I would be skeptical. But who knows the details of what they're really doing? I have no idea.
I've read that they've found bacteria that will eat,
Oh, yeah.
digest plastic.
Oh, yeah. Yes, and I've seen some work on termites since they carry bacteria that digest cellulose. And so there may be a combination of insects and microorganisms that deal with the plastic. So that's a good comment, yeah.
Maybe to increase the number of people that would gingerly try to eat some insect matter, if that matter was put inside a capsule, such as many vitamins and things like that, maybe that would increase the number of users.
It's a good idea. So we'll have to look that up and see if somebody's doing it. It's a good idea.
I was wondering, when you were discussing black fly, the product from black fly, Akita, is that being fed to the fish in the fish farm, in the homestead, you said, the salmon farm?
Yes.
To what extent are those products actually going to animal feed that's a substitute for other more vulnerable sources of food?
It's continuing to increase. It's rapidly increasing. All of this is within 4 or 5 years. They're looking for options. And this fish deal, of course, is global, as I mentioned. You have to get economy of scale. And that's what all these big factories are about, getting enough material out that you can compete with the capture of fish and other animal products and replace them. That's the goal.
Like chickens, for example.
Chicken's a good example.
Yeah.
Very, very good example. And that's another one. Chickens, you have to be a little careful of the chitin.
And what about cattle? Is there any potential for cattle to be fed those kinds of things, even as a supplement for extra protein?
Well, this is a work in progress. Those are goals. And if you go online, and I'm leaving this talk and some of these websites, go online, you'll see that those are goals. And they'll mention cattle and chicken and pigs and fish and birds and blah, blah, blah. How much of that is going on? I can't really tell. not by the internet. A lot of it is designed to encourage investment. And you know how that goes. They really inflate where they are, but that's where they're saying they're going.
Here's a loaded question. We are reading about the new administration doing a lot of funding cuts. To what extent is that impacting your particular research area?
Well, the funding cuts, of course, are up in the air. The information that comes from our administration, provost office, the dean for research's office, and so forth, is to be conservative. On the ground is at my level. We're finding out that the agencies where we submit proposals, such as NSF, NIH, USDA, DOD, all of those agencies, if they are accepting proposals, and you know we're on a proposal cycle, they're not being paneled, so they're not moving forward. The indirect cost issue is a big one. The university's running on our indirect cost was basically 42%, roughly. It varies with grants, but it's about 42%. Some sources put a cap, so maybe 30%. I had a grant that was 30%. And you drop that down from 42% on millions and millions of dollars that we receive down to 15%, it wouldn't be the same organization. You couldn't support what we do now on 15%. I don't know how that's going to shake out. Nobody does. But we are right now at what I think they're calling a stalemate. Be conservative. I tell my students, it's okay. Your current program, I have the funding in the bank for this year. So they're okay. But next year, we don't know. That's as much as I can say. It's not gloom and doom. It's just, my goodness, how is this going to work with how we've done things in the past? And it is affecting, maybe I'll go on a little bit, it's affecting employment. So some of my colleagues in their first year of probation are not being renewed. So they'll have to figure out what to do. Either that money will be restored and they'll be in those jobs, or they'll have to have another job. But everybody is in limbo.
I have two questions. The first one, pretty simple. We have agriculture and we have aquaculture. Is there a word that describes insect production for food?
Guess what the word is?
Insect culture? I don't know. Is that? Okay. Okay.
We do have a field, and that's one of the areas I teach in and have worked in my whole career. And we have a book, and we have global courses. We have a course at Mississippi State University. We have the one at Stellenbosch. We're trying to get more people to be instructors. It's not a growing field yet, but that's one reason I've been keeping track of these kinds of things. They could pop real fast. Another area of growth is mosquito production for all of these new mosquito control, molecular biology driven opportunities. So genetically modified male mosquitoes being released. A lot of robotics, some engineers are getting into it. So there is some opportunity, but those of us who have been teaching it for a while, our next step is to, and we're kind of senior, most of us, is to record what we know and put it somewhere where people can access it.
Mhm. And my second question, I noticed you had a slide there that said 110 tons of organic waste becomes 22
Yeah.
tons of
Yeah.
black soldier fly larvae. What portion of that becomes unusable waste? Do you know?
Well, that I guess was about a 25% yield, and the rest of it becomes a liquid waste.
Uh-huh.
And I've had to deal with that too. It's sewage.
Mhm. Okay.
It's what it amounts to, and we have to deal with it as sewage, and then it becomes sludge, and then it becomes fertilizer.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? We have anything on chat? Nope.
No?
Okay, wonderful. What? Oh, well, okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I do have another one then, not to monopolize things, but I noticed another slide there, you had a pie chart. And I interpreted that pie chart as being percentages, but I think that's wrong. It had 28% of 28 being black soldier fly, and I think 14 being the crickets and so on. And I noticed it didn't add up to 100. Were those numbers of thousands of tons per year? Can you tell what,
Yep,
tell
I'll
us
tell
what
you.
that was?
I assumed that including other, that it made 100%. I can go back and look and see what it really says.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where's the other 50%? I will answer your question with, the research is investigating more than 100 species. So it, in fact, what I read was roughly 100 species are being investigated for food and feed. I honestly don't know. Those are relative numbers, but they aren't percentages. So I appreciate your mathematician and sharp eye. I'll get that defined if I ever give this talk again. I actually did develop this talk just for today. I don't know if I'll use it again.
I noticed you didn't mention cockroaches and palmetto bugs. They're so hardy and resilient. Is there some reason why they're not
Yeah.
using them?
Yeah, I hate them. Just absolutely hate them. I do not like roaches. Roaches are used. People eat roaches. In fact, you've probably seen some poor fellow choked on a roach and died here in some event a couple, 3 years ago in Florida. They're used, and I don't consider this food and feed stuff to be the same as that insects for odd events. But people do eat roaches. Yep.
Well, sometimes people eat each other. So I guess if you're hungry enough, you'll eat anything. What? No. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Oh, okay. The question was, how many years before we're offered bugger and fries?
Yeah, well, you saw, we're there. All you have to do is get on the internet and order it. Amazon will bring it to you, and it's your fault, and you gotta eat it. If you buy it, you gotta eat it.
Well, thank you very much for a very entertaining talk.